Hello and welcome to a gaming podcast. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to call this yet, but this is the sort of thing that I wanted to do on an unscheduled basis, just to talk about things that are happening in the gaming world, share my thoughts on some of the happenings, and yeah, just in general, provide sort of a more informal sort of content for the channel that'll vary the content of the channel up nicely. And also give you maybe some insight into my personality, etc. So, with that being said, I thought of a couple of topics here that I wanted to discuss. The first is, this coffee is really good. First thing I want to talk about is the Battlefield 1 trailer. So we got to see quite a bit in this trailer. We got to see the use of biplanes, we got to see the use of horses, we got to see, of course, the train that moves across that one map, sort of an interactive map component. My, reception to this trailer and to the announcement that the open beta is coming at the end of August, it was a positive one. Like, I am really, really excited to see Battlefield 1 in action. I'm pretty much definitely going to get the game, as long as people report that performance issues are a non-issue upon launch. But my reception to the trailer really centered around the Battlefield series as a whole, right? Because the last Battlefield game, I believe, that was released, I think was Hardline, right? And for me, Hardline was just a very odd entry into the Battlefield series. And I think that's the way that most people felt, right? Battlefield is good at war, right? Battlefield is known as a war game. And for EA, DICE, to go and publish a game that has always been centered around war, and now centered around this type of police, sort of non-military unit interaction, it was just very, very odd to me. Like, how did that even go down in the drawing board? Battlefield has always been about chaos, destruction. I just don't know that really fits the police sort of FBI, even the SWAT vibe. It's not there. So for me, Battlefield 1 and the trailer is almost a return to what made Battlefield great. I feel like DICE and EA took a look at after, Hardline and realized, okay, this game didn't do so well. And by the way, I think Hardline would have done fine if it was released as a separate IP. I think they made a mistake by putting it into the Battlefield series because it's really not a Battlefield game. It just didn't know what it wanted to be. It kind of walks this weird line between, okay, this is a police game, but it's also a Battlefield game, and it's not what fans expected. I don't really think it's what fans wanted, and I heard the campaign was lackluster as well. I only played the beta, but if I'm correct, the beta didn't differ much from the actual game. Regardless, yeah, so I feel like EA and DICE sort of sat down and realized, okay, let's go back to our roots with this Battlefield 1 thing. And they stumbled, they set on World War 1 as their setting. And I think that's a smart move, because World War 1 is just hasn't been explored within gaming, at least recently. You have games like shooters like Verdun, right? Which I actually thought did World War 1 very nicely, but of course, being an indie game, just didn't have the assets to do vehicles or anything like that. And then, of course, you have things like Day of Infamy, which is really just an insurgency reskin, so that's actually kind of disappointing. But yeah, DICE's interpretation of World War 1 looks very, very, very fun and very unique, and I love the fact that they're incorporating things like horses, that they're incorporating things like biplanes, that they have the train moving through the map, and they have single-shot weapons, right? As long as they make it realistic, as in it doesn't take a lot of shots to kill people, right? I feel like it should only take one with those type of single shot weapons. I feel like they could really have something great here, and I don't know, man. I'm overall just very, very excited for this game. I'm going to definitely be, well, I can't promise that I'll cover the beta, but I'm definitely going to be playing the beta, and I will make sure to share my thoughts with you guys as to what I thought of that, whether it's on Twitter or on YouTube, which brings me to my next topic that I wanted to discuss is Twitter. This is sort of an informational thing, but also a plug as well. So I created a separate Twitter for gaming the other day, right? I have a Twitter for political stuff, for news stuff, for sports stuff. That's all one Twitter. And I created a separate Twitter account just for gaming because I figured, okay, I'm getting into this reviewing thing. I should probably know what I'm talking about. So I created a separate Twitter for this channel. Actually, you can follow me at Maeda_reviews. Constantly posting, retweeting things, and sharing my thoughts on games, right? So it's sort of a more unfiltered version, right, of this channel. But yeah, so I created a separate Twitter, and I followed just basically games critics, right, from official sites like PC Gamer, IGN, etc., Eurogamer, to YouTube critics like Total Biscuit, and even just games writers in general, game journalists like Dan Stapleton, who is a chief editor, I believe, at IGN, or executive editor, or something like that. But he's very funny, and actually had some very valid points about No Man's Sky, which I thought were very interesting, so you should go give him a follow for sure. Whether you disagree or agree with him, he's pretty brilliant, at least when it comes to gaming. But yeah, that being said, if you don't have a gaming Twitter, and if you're one of those people who's just like constantly sitting around and on Steam, and you're feeling like, man, there's nothing to play, man, there's no games out, definitely consider getting a gaming Twitter, because I was introduced to a couple titles purely as a result of Twitter, and that's like a beautiful thing, because it's you know, it's giving me the ability to try out more games. For instance, I actually had no clue that Battlefield was going to have an open beta at the end of this month. Saw it on Twitter. Now I'm interested. Definitely looking out for that. But the other thing that I saw, and this is actually the third point I wanted to get to, was Paragon. Paragon is a third-person action MOBA game. Sort of in the vein of Smite. It's drawn a lot of comparisons to Smite for obvious reasons. Third-person MOBA, right? But it's very different. Like, Smite is more so, reminds me of like if World of Warcraft was a MOBA, right? With like gods as characters. Paragon is like if an Arkham game, or if like I guess like it's almost like a third-person Halo, really, in a MOBA setting. And I was originally going to do a first impressions video on it, but then I realized I'm not a fan of MOBA games, and a lot of my criticisms of the Paragon Open Beta just came down to the fact that it was a MOBA. I'm just not into MOBAs. Like I'll just list my criticisms here. Long game times. This is legitimately a MOBA. It feels like an action game, but it's legitimately a MOBA. So 40-minute matches, which I'm just really not a fan of. And obviously, long matches means that if you're getting stomped for 40 minutes. So it's not like Rocket League where, you know, okay, you're down 0-5, but it's okay because it's going to be over in 2 minutes. It can be a long time just grinding out whether you're winning or losing. And so I find that sort of tedium very, very boring. That's why I don't play a lot of MOBA games, even though I have a lot of friends who are interested in them and who actually play at pretty high levels in them. I did have one like legit criticism of Paragon as a game, not just as a MOBA, and that's the UI. The UI is very, very cluttered, and I think that that's something that they're going to need to work on. You can see in the gameplay here, it's just there's so much on screen, and it just kind of takes away from the action, third-person action feel of the game, which I think is something that's really unique, like the sprinting feature, whereby if you're just like moving around, your character will just kind of start to sprint, and it feels like an action game. Which is nice because Smite sort of had that third-person thing going for it, but it just felt like, again, like a third-person MOBA. This feels like a third-person action game just in a MOBA arena, which is nice. It's definitely different, and I like it. I think it has a lot of potential. It's also free, and you should go get the open beta and try it, because why not? Why not? It's free. But yeah, so that's essentially all I want to talk about. Like I said, I'm going to be doing these little bits with unscheduled regularity, so I have no idea when the next one will come out. But I feel like this is a good addition to the channel as far as just getting some more varied content out there, and getting my my unfiltered, sort of off the script feelings about things on the record. And also a way to discuss gaming news, because that doesn't really come through as much in reviews, obviously. We're just hearing my analysis of a game as opposed to kind of talking about anticipation, hype, build-up, etc. All this would have been very interesting in the months leading up to, and the weeks really leading up to No Man's Sky. So that's kind of why I thought of, we're doing this, because if the next game comes along and it's super hyped, we can, hopefully have a forum through this sort of podcast to discuss. But yeah, sound off in the comments below. Leave your thoughts on any of the things we discussed today, or even things that we didn't discuss today, or potentially things that you want me to discuss in the future. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. Have a great end of August, and I'll see you next time.